Do you believe that the Bucks are sort of casually saying, "Hey, we can wait till summer to do this"?
No, I don't believe them for a second. If you look at NBA history, your leverage doesn't increase as the time on the player's contract goes down. So Giannis has 2 years left on his contract as it currently stands. If they wait until the offseason, he'll essentially be an expiring contract. If you're an opposing team, you're not going to give up, a ton of assets for someone that's going to be having an expiring contract in a year. So I think right now, if you're going to get the most value for Giannis, now before the deadline is the best time to pull the trigger, because the longer you wait, the less you're going to get. It's everyone knows that this is a divorce waiting to happen. Teams that know that are not going to suddenly say, "Oh, we're going to give up two more picks," as opposed to the one or two that they might be offering now. So if you're Milwaukee, the longer you wait, the worse the offer is going to get.
I'm with you there. The writing's been on the wall. But
Right.
how would you approach it if you were a decision maker in Milwaukee? Of course, Giannis has talked about how he wants to be a New York Knick. But if you're Milwaukee, you want as much as possible in return. So how does Milwaukee balance that, getting the most in return and also satisfying what Giannis wants?
Obviously, in a perfect world, both sides would work together and find something that works for everybody. I do think in this particular situation, given how toxic it's become, Milwaukee has to set themselves up for the future, and they have to look in their own best interest. They need as many young players as possible, as much draft capital as possible, future pick swaps in 2030 to 2031. You have to look at the next 15 years down the road if you're in Milwaukee trying to turn the page. Because let's face it, after Giannis, you might not get another blue chip NBA superstar for at least 10 or 15 years, unless you draft them through the draft. So if you're in Milwaukee, you kind of have to look at how do we get the most future flexibility possible that protects us in the event that this happens again.
You say it's gotten toxic. That's a bold word to use. How did we get to this point?
I think if you go back and you listen to everything that Giannis has said since he last won a championship, it's been clear that the Bucks not putting enough around him to win another championship has disappointed him. And to be fair, the Bucks have tried. They went out and got Damian Lillard. They went out and got all these pieces around Giannis to try and fortify that group, but it didn't pan out. And the longer that Giannis sat around and saw what was going on, the angrier he became. I know you saw the comments he made a couple of days ago about his teammates being selfish, about the chemistry being off, guys taking the wrong shots. Once players say those buzzwords like selfish and being disgruntled, the writing's on the wall. It's only a matter of time before they want out. So this has been slowly building to this point ever since they won that championship, and ever since Giannis probably felt like the Bucks didn't do enough to ensure that he has another Larry O'Brien.
All right, so Kelly, walk me through the logic with Golden State, because I said earlier on this show today, full transparency, I understand Golden State has a bunch of picks to give up. They'd be giving up a bunch of picks to bring in Giannis, whose body may or may not be able to handle the wear and tear of full seasons, and doesn't really change the fact that they're going to have to make a rebuild at some point. So do you leverage the future for Giannis if you're Golden State?
Absolutely. And this is kind of a similar situation like with Steph Curry, who is the most important player to that region and probably ever. As long as he's still kicking and breathing, you do everything in your power to put a team around him that makes sense and that can contend for a championship. If that means going to pull the trigger for Giannis, so be it. You have young players like Jonathan Kuminga, who wants a fresh start, Brandon Podziemski, who could be an attractive young piece, and you have future first-round picks. Now, if I'm Milwaukee, I'm trying to go involve a third team like Portland that has control of my future firsts in 2028 and 2030 and trying to pull them into a deal, a three-team deal. But if you're the Warriors and you still have Steph Curry in that roster and Draymond Green and Steve Kerr, you go out and get a future Hall of Famer that can come in and be a complementary piece to Steph Curry and give them a new dynamic that they haven't seen in probably ever.
If you're just looking at it from a pure basketball standpoint, because of course there's a total business side of this that's going to be,
Right.
a huge part of where Giannis gets dealt. But from a pure basketball standpoint, where makes the most sense?
From a pure basketball standpoint, I would say, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but Detroit to me. I think they already
Mm.
have the defense in place, the infrastructure in place. They already have Cade, a superstar, young lead ball handler. They just need a guy that can come in and take pressure off of Cade and force defenses to not always have to put two on the ball on Cade. Combining Cade with Giannis would give Detroit a very lethal pick and roll, pick and pop. And Giannis is also a quality distributor himself. And again, one of the best defenders of all time. So that would be a dream pairing from a basketball standpoint. You could also throw on a team like maybe Houston. If they were ever if they ever came to that point, I don't think they are. But from a pure basketball standpoint, Houston, San Antonio, those teams make a lot of sense for Giannis as well too. But if we're being honest, I think Detroit is probably a bit above and beyond the rest.
If he goes to Detroit, is he NBA champion in your mind?
Wow, that's a good question. I think they come out the East for sure. Then it's a toss up at that point. It's the NBA Finals. So I definitely think Giannis and Cade can come out the East. No questions asked. The East is wide open. This is the best time to do it. If you're Detroit, you put all the chips at the table because, frankly, you're ahead of schedule and you don't know the next time you'll be here. Success is not guaranteed, especially, look at Milwaukee. Success is not guaranteed over a long period of time. If you're the Pistons, you can go get Giannis. Yeah, it's going to cost you a significant portion of your future assets and flexibility. Who cares? We're talking about a top 15 player, top 20 player of all time, potentially. So put them on the table and you go get the superstar and worry about the rest later.
Yeah, F them picks. F them picks. Put all your chips in the middle. But that is part of it, the business side of things. It's so fun to just play video game trades and just look at it from a basketball standpoint. But Kelly, in your opinion, if you're Milwaukee, what are you asking for? What are you prioritizing in a trade?
If I'm Milwaukee, I'm prioritizing a player that can come in and win now, a younger player, probably preferably age 26 or below. I'm asking for a couple of pieces that are movable in the case that I want to flip them again. And I'm asking for a boatload of first round picks. Maybe not more than 4, but at least 3 and a pick swap. You need to set yourself up from a flexibility standpoint to the point where if it doesn't work out with the player that you bring in, you can flip him again and continue to restore your draft asset chest and control your own future. The worst thing that teams can do is have a disgruntled superstar that wants out and not have control of their own first round picks moving forward. So if you're Milwaukee, that needs to be the number one priority. How can we get our picks back? And the easiest answer is going to call Portland and beg them to come involved in any potential deal.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the other stories across the league right now, Kelly, because my ears perked up with Jayson Tatum news yesterday. We've gone under the assumption all season long that Tatum was going to try somehow and get back this season. Now we're getting reporting that, apparently he's considering pushing all of that back and not trying to come back this season, according to Chris Haynes. What do you make of this? What's the latest on Tatum in your mind?
I think it's somewhat similar to what the Rockets are experiencing with Fred VanVleet. Now, as a player, the easiest thing in the world is to say, I'm going to try and come back. I'm going to be ahead of schedule. My recovery is going great. But coming back from an ACL injury, players say all the time, there are these certain benchmarks that you have to clear from a physical standpoint. And if your body doesn't feel comfortable, doing certain movements, even though we all saw the workout he did, the hour-long workout, and that looked fantastic. But if you can't do certain things, there's no risk. There's no reason to risk your body right now when the reward potentially is not worth the risk. It's just not worth it right now. If you can, come back next season 100% as opposed to coming back now and being 75%, I think it makes more sense. The Celtics aren't going to win a championship this year. So Tatum trying to rush things and come back will only appease the fans and maybe his family. But if he's thinking for himself, waiting it out and seeing how until he fully feels 110%, 105% is the best option going forward.
You just said you don't think the Celtics are going to win a championship this year. Is that more about the Celtics themselves, or is that more about the Celtics just can't compete with anyone that comes out of the West?
No, it's more about the field. It's more about the field. I just don't see them beating any Western Conference top team 4 times out of 7. I just don't. I don't see them beating San Antonio 4 times. I don't see them beating Denver at a full strength. I don't see them beating Oklahoma City Thunder. Maybe the Lakers, but I don't see the Lakers come out of the West. So it's like you have to look at your chances and the probability of you having a deep run. Now the Eastern Conference is wide open, so they probably would fare okay in the Eastern Conference playoffs, but I think it would be worse if they got to the finals and got embarrassed, and something goes wrong with Tatum's body, and now he is out for a longer time than just taking a chill pill and coming back 2027 season.
Yeah, get it right. Don't get it first. All right, let's. Speaking of star players in the East, Joel Embiid averaging 32 and 10 over the last 5.
Yeah,
it just looks like a different version. Are you ready to believe in Joel Embiid again?
Yeah, I'm ready. I think the biggest thing for anybody that watches Embiid closely is his movement and the body language. Early in the year, he just didn't seem happy. He was sluggish. He was struggling from an efficiency standpoint. The most important thing for me is the assist. He's getting people involved. Everyone knows that Embiid at his best is one of the game's premier scorers. He's a 3-level threat on any given night, and he's a physical nightmare. How can he get other people involved, especially now seeing the emergence of Tyrese Maxey and it coming to his superstar arc? You've seen BJ Edgecombe, the up and down play of Paul George. Kelly Oubre is also there as a sometime player. But everything revolves around Embiid. If the Sixers want to be the best version of themselves, it's not by Tyrese Maxey and BJ, going bar for bar. It's got to be Embiid controlling the tempo, being the man in the middle, being a force every night, and impounding his will on opposing defenses. So what we're seeing right now is great. Can he keep it up? I know only time will tell because of his body and the history, but I'm believing what I'm seeing so far in 2026, man.
All right. Speaking of belief, we've seen some teams surge over the last month. The Hornets are surging. The Raptors, I know they lost last night, but they've won 4 of their last 5. The Clippers have won 16 of their last 19. Of those teams, do you believe in any of them?
I believe in the Clippers for sure. If you've seen what they've been able to do lately, winning 16 of 19, this is a dangerous team. Everyone thought that they were going to be sellers, coming to the deadline because of the Chris Paul situation, because of how much they were losing. The stars weren't fitting. Kawhi and James Harden are playing some of the best basketball that we've seen from them in years. And, everything that the Clippers do was always going to be around those 2 players, but John Collins has been awesome as a 2-way force. You're seeing them playing with a bit more pace, than they have been in the past, and just more urgency. And I think if you're the Clippers, yes, you are a playing team, but the Western Conference isn't as solidified as you might think. This is a dangerous team to play, in the first round series if they get there out of the play-in. So I believe in the Clippers. I also believe in the Hornets in terms of what Charles Lee is able to do from a structural, tactical standpoint. This may be a year too early for them, but I do believe in everything that he's done, in terms of X's and O's, putting them in position to win games and just being the coach that has players believe in you. The biggest thing for a young team is, can you believe in your head coach? Do you believe in the message he's sending out? And can you execute his offense and defense? And I think they've done that over the last 10 or so games to a T.